How's it going, fam? Welcome back to Erica's EDC, and today we're doing the full review of the SPK Shark in, if I don't drop it, ELMAX. Guys, this is going to be an awesome review. I think a lot of you will really enjoy this knife. I have a ton of good things to say about it. So we're going to talk about my month-long experience with this knife. I carried it for the whole month of June, didn't carry anything else. This was my EDC and did everything that I needed it to do. And we're going to talk about it in depth today. It has been stropped, it has been sharpened. I did record the full sharpening of this, and this is a fantastic little knife. So I'm going to lower you guys down because I want to do some size comparisons to a couple of really common EDC knives. This is clearly very much an EDC style blade. We've got ELMAX at 61 to 62 HRC, 10 thou BTE, very thin and slicey blade. And this is very much a thin and slicey little cutter here. Sorry for the noise. Let me lower you guys down, and we're really going to talk about it. So, SPK Shark. Awesome little blade. Let's bring a couple of knives in here that are comparable in size. We'll actually do this one first. This is the Northern Knife Works Mink. This is in Pro Cut. This is a knife that I am carrying today actually and testing this month, but you can see they're pretty dang close in size. The Mink is just a little bit longer, but two great EDC fixies. Just a heads up, these are available at Northern Knife Works. Pro Cut 63 HRC, super thin and slicey EDC knife. Awesome little blade here. A little bit longer than the Shark, but let's look at some really common, well-known EDC knives. So here we have the Spyderco Para 3 Lightweight, and again, you can really start to understand the size of the Shark. So the Para 3 is actually a little bit longer, and I know it's hard to pick up on the length here because the Para 3 kind of comes up and then back down and swoops up. But the Para 3 is a little bit longer than the Shark, it seems. Really similar blade shape though. We have that kind of triangular, thin and slicey blade. Let's check out the Chris Reeve Small Sabenza 31. One of my tried and trues here. Now this is a really comparable size. These are just about identical. So the Shark is really a small little compact blade. And lastly, we'll do the Benchmade Bug Out, a classic. And the Bug Out has a little bit of length on the Shark, but not too much. So the Shark is a very reasonable size. These come in at $130, and they're $140 if you want a sheath to be included. The sheath is not included at the $130 price point because a lot of people in the fixed blade community either make their own sheaths or they have one commissioned. So for me, if I had purchased this, I didn't, it was sent in for review, but if I had, I would have gotten one without a sheath because I can very much make one myself like this. This is what I carried it in the entire month. Just a little pocket sheath that I whipped up, and it saves you an extra $10 and you get to customize it yourself. But if you want a sheath with it, $140. So this is probably the best USA made EDC fixed blade on the market. I know that is a very dangerous statement to make, but if we really look at everything this has to offer, I can't find anything that tops this. So what makes the Shark so special is that it's $130, okay? Fully machined. Nothing on this is done by hand, really by a human, except for the edge. The edge that it came with was a very ridiculously sharp convex edge, and we did sharpen it, so now it is not convex because I did a full sharpening on the channel, which by the way went amazing. But everything about this knife is made by a machine. So the scales are natural micarta and they are machined. They are also textured, which I don't know if the camera will pick up, but they have this kind of ripple texturing on the surface. The entire knife itself is fully machined and double disc ground. So everything is literally made to perfection because a robot is doing it. Hidden lanyard hole. Chamfered corners and sides. And we do have a blasted blade on this as well. This is really dirty because I used it for an entire month, but this might be a little bit of a cleaner representation of a blasted blade. It almost has this sparkly, like Teflon finish. So it's a little bit of a matte, I'm not really sure how to explain it. It's soft, but you can feel the texture, this blasting. It's really, really nice. And it also holds up very well, I noticed. So not only is this entirely done by Alex and his little machine shop, everything is USA sourced. So the micarta, the hardware, everything that Alex uses is USA made sourced. Now, as we know, and I've touched on this before, this whole USA made, USA sourced deal, people make it way more complicated than it needs to be. So what I mean by that is this is made in New York by Alex and his machines. He purchases everything in America. Now we all know that ELMAX is not literally made in the USA. You can purchase it here, but it is made overseas, okay? ELMAX, VanX, K390, all of those steels are made over in Europe, okay? Most of them. But it is purchased here. The micarta is made in the USA. The hardware, made in the USA. So this is truly a USA made knife with USA sourced materials that could have imported ingredients in them, right? So maybe the canvas or whatever, or the glue, the epoxy for the micarta maybe was sourced or overseas, okay? But I don't get that nitpicky. My point is this is a USA made blade with USA sourced materials, okay? It's a beautiful thing. And for $130, it is basically proving a lot of people make a lot of excuses for this not being feasible, all right? This is probably the cheapest USA made fixed blade with a very good heat treat, very well done in a super steel. You're just not going to find it for that price. These are available on his drops. They sell out instantly, okay? I know that's annoying, but it is what it is. He's only one guy. He's making a whole bunch of these right now. Sign up for his emails. His link will be down in the description, and you can sign up for the email notifications as to when the drop happens. Like I said, he's working on them right now. But you're not really going to find this anywhere else. You're also not really going to find this design anywhere else because Alex is very smart, okay? And he saw this kind of trend in the community where people started making EDC fixed blades, right? It's all the hype right now. But they were these tiny little, 4 or 5-inch knives where the handle and blade ratio was split 50-50. Now, I used to fall for that. I didn't see anything wrong with it. They're great. But if you're someone who actually uses their knives, you will realize that when you have a little tiny setup with a 50-50 ratio, your fingers are falling off the end, and if you actually notice it, it's really irritating. Not only that, but when you don't have your, let's say, last, 2 fingers or even your pinky, when you have them hanging off, you don't have nearly as much control over your blade as you think you do. So what Alex did was added a whole bunch of extra handle length. Now, as we saw, it doesn't make the knife overly long, okay? This is literally about the same size as a Benchmade bug out. All right? So it's not like this is a really long knife. It is the same exact size as your pocket folders that you EDC every day. But the handle really gives you a ton of extra usage, okay? So I have small hands. You guys probably all have way larger hands than I do. I'm 5'5", 115 pounds and a female, okay? My hands are fairly small. So when I choke up on this blade, I have a good amount hanging off, okay? Just like with any knife. I make the bug out look like it's a massive knife. Okay? Now, I like my knives to have a little extra length. This is like the perfect size for me. Around 7.5, 8 inches long. That's about the perfect size for me for an EDC knife. So I have some handle hanging off here, but for you guys, your hand is probably going to take up this whole thing, but comfortably, reasonably. You're not going to have your pinky hanging off the end, grasping nothing, okay? This knife really has the user in mind, okay? So we have a full-size handle on this EDC fixed blade, super thin and slicey blade, very well done ELMAX, okay? This is designed to be used and carried, and it is at a price point that nearly anyone can afford. Now, let's talk about the actual testing and use. So I carried this for the whole month of June. I did not use anything else for my EDC tasks. I did make some content on some like bushcraft knives and stuff, but I also did use this for bushcraft tasks. So I did, as crazy as this sounds, split kindling with this. So I batoned with it. I started fires with this, and I did film this content. I used this to strike a ferro rod, and I did all of the outdoorsy stuff with it. I whittled with it. We made some stakes for the tomatoes over there. That's all on video. And this blade surprisingly did exceptionally well with outdoor use. Now, I need to reiterate, this is an EDC design, guys. I am not telling you to chop through nails or feasibly baton large limbs with this or anything, okay? This is an EDC knife for slicing. But the reason I wanted to put it through some outdoors bushcrafty stuff is just to prove that when you have a well-done design in a well-done steel, you can do way more with your knife than you think you can. So this was actually striking a ferro rod the best out of any of the other bushcraft knives in the video, which was hilarious. It did feather sticks very, very well. Now, for outdoor campfire stuff, I definitely prefer having a little more blade length like this with a longer, skinnier blade. It just seems to give me more cutting length and a little bit of a better blade shape. So this is more of a knife that I would choose to do outdoor campfire tasks. But there was nothing wrong with this. It did everything extremely well. You can just see though that on this knife, for example, we kind of have more cutting edge going straight, okay? So if you're using a knife, let's say I'm holding a stick and you're using a knife up and down like this, okay? This knife has more cutting length in a straight plane here than the Shark, right? Because the Shark has a shorter blade and kind of right from the get-go, it starts swooping up. That is exactly what you want in an EDC blade. In a blade that you're going to be doing woodwork with, it may not be ideal for everyone because you have a very short amount of blade length here cutting edge that is going quote unquote straight across, because it really starts coming up instantly, okay? So when you're holding your knife like this and you're pushing down push cuts on a piece of wood, you don't have as much cutting length here to work with. That was not an issue for me, and again, this knife was not designed for that. But for what this is designed for, going into a different world of use, it did very, very well. Extremely comfortable. The micarta was really warm in the hand, and none of these machined corners caused any hot spots or issues at all, really. This was really comfortable to use. Even though the handle is very skinny, it didn't cause any issues. This knife did everything that I asked of it and more. I was truly blown away at the outdoor use I was able to do with this. The whittling of the steaks went very well, in my opinion. The coating held up really, really nicely with all of these scraping tasks I was doing for outdoor use. You can see we have some, kind of like micro damage up on the spine from the ferro rod, which I used a number of times, and the sparks from the ferro rod seem to have kind of, I don't know if melted is the right term, but damaged the very surface of this blasted finish. But I think this held up very well for what I did with it. So the design gets a 10 out of 10 for EDC tasks that it was intended for. I would truly say a 9 out of 10 for tasks outside of its realm. I also did the dog food with it. It did wonderfully. Like I said, the only thing that it seems a little inferior with is the bushcraft type stuff, just because typically we have a little more of that straight cutting length on a bushcraft knife, but it did exceptionally well. Now, the sharpening aspect was beautiful. I did strop this back before I sharpened it, and it stropped back very well. That stropped back edge did not hold incredibly long, I think partly due to me using my knives very hard, but also, as I said, the edge it came with was a convex edge. That's very common. That's what we get on our Chris Reeve knives, okay? They are shipped with a convex edge. Very, very tough, but in terms of edge longevity, they sometimes don't last as long as a normal edge. So this edge was very, very tough, held up incredibly well in terms of impact. I did strop it back. It didn't hold the edge as long, so I ended up sharpening it. We did a freehand sharpen on stones. If you want to know all of the supplies, etc., what I use, go watch that video. But the sharpening went incredibly well. This ELMAX was ridiculously easy to deburr. It moved beautifully on the stones. I did not use diamond stones or diamond emulsion spray in that sharpening at all. I wanted to see if we could work with this blade, with this steel, with non-diamond abrasives, so that the average person that has the average sharpening setup and strop can utilize this. And you can. You do not need diamonds to work with Alex's ELMAX. It sharpens beautifully on nanowatt stones, ceramics, chaucera stones, okay? And it stropped back beautifully with the, I believe it's called aluminum oxide compound, the little crayon stuff that you just scribble on a strop. Everything was beautiful. It sharpened really, really nicely, and this is the edge that I did freehand on that video. As you can see, very easy to hold that factory angle. It's a nearly hairline bevel, so it was super easy to work with. Beautiful sharpening choil here that is not, this wasn't a pain in use. This didn't get hung up on anything, nothing. So, I'll be honest, guys, I cannot find a single thing about this knife that I would change. Nothing. I am still in shock about the price point. $130 for a premium machined, USA made, super steel, high hardness, thin geometry knife. I'm not even sure how Alex is doing it, but he is. This debunks many excuses that we hear from a number of companies and makers as to why they cannot offer reasonable knives at reasonable price points. This is not to shit on any of them or to talk down or to, take sales from them. I'm just saying it's very interesting how many excuses you hear in the community, and this kind of debunks all of them. Okay? It's really cool to see a maker that actually does what people say you cannot do. So there's nothing I would change about this. This has the best review, a glowing review from me. You can sharpen this easily, guys. You can maintain this easily with whatever you have at home already. It is cheap. It is comfortable. You can do bushcraft stuff with it. You can do EDC tasks with it. I am not telling you that you should take this and baton in your backyard with it. I'm not telling you that you should rely on solely this for your camping trip. I'm just saying, if for funsies you want to play around with that kind of stuff, the SPK Shark can absolutely handle it. So with that, I think the review is kind of wrapped up here. I have nothing bad to say about it. Alex is an incredible maker, very knowledgeable. He loves to help people in the community. He is always giving advice, but also receiving it. He's always asking for tips and tricks on how to do things. Definitely a community member, I would say. Really, really good guy, ridiculously smart. I highly, highly suggest checking out his work. I have nothing bad to say about this knife. And Alex, thank you so much for sending this along. I've known Alex for years. I would call him a good friend of mine. I know if I asked him for anything, he would try to help. Truly a good dude. And his work is phenomenal. So I am beyond grateful that he sent this along for testing and my opinion. And it was an absolute pleasure to use this in my day-to-day life. So with that being said, I think that's everything. Go use your shit. Learn how to sharpen your knives. Shiny. Check out the SPK Shark. I will link him down below. And I think I will see you guys on the next video. I love you so much, fam. Take care.